young age. I found a journal entry a while back from when I was a kid, and I asked, what would you do if you won a fortune? And I wrote something along the lines of, I would give to the needy, I would go to Hawaii, and then I would come back and start a home for teenagers that didn't have anywhere to live. So my heart hasn't changed that much from then to now, but there was some detour years. In high school, my church shut down the youth program. I went to a Christian school, so I still had Bible classes and chapel, but I stopped being involved in church. I graduated and completely fell away from God. After high school, I tried alcohol, which led to a very long road of drinking. If I wasn't working, there was a 95% chance I was partying or drinking. I moved into a party house, and that became my life. I met a guy that everyone told me to stay away from. I did not listen. Surprise, surprise. This led to a 4-year relationship filled with drinking, anger, and other women. He went to prison for felony theft, and I went to jail for a DUI. He cashed fraud checks in my name, so I couldn't even have a checking account for 7 years. Long nights of being told that I was nothing and only worth what he could get from me. He used my car, my phone. He was completely financially dependent on me. I finally had enough and left. Instead of learning my lesson and doing better, I took the new freedom and just partied more. About a year later, I met my son's dad. He owned his own business, so I thought it was better because at least I wasn't financially supporting him. He had a girlfriend and would lie saying that they had broke up, but they hadn't. She had enough and left, but I stayed. Other girls, friends, and work always came before me. Verbal abuse was the center of the relationships. Holes in the walls, broken mirrors, baseball bats to my stuff was the kind of stuff I was used to. I got in a fight with one of the girls in the middle of Highway 41 in front of the Red Eye. This devastated me because I'm not a fighter, and that should have been a wake-up call, but it was not. Cops got called, and I told them that I would leave Marion County and wouldn't come back. That was absolutely not true because I stayed. After being together for 2 years, I found out that I was pregnant. I was at a pub crawl in Destin and couldn't get drunk. That's how I started to think that something was off. Isaac's dad was not happy because he didn't want a kid. I took a pregnancy test alone in a Walmart bathroom in South Georgia. The second I saw those 2 blue lines, God started working in me. He might have been conceived in sin, but God used my sin to get my attention and come to him. Genesis 50:20, you intend to harm me, but God intended it for good. He brought me to this position so I could save lives of many people. I had a long way to go, but things started shifting that moment. His dad was working out of town or at bars throughout the entire pregnancy. I learned very well how to handle things alone. After Isaac was born, things got worse. The verbal abuse got worse. Death threats got more serious. I went to the cops over him saying that he was going to burn the house down and blow his head off. I was told that I just woke him up too early and that there was no need for a police report. He beat himself up at Disney, he ran away, and then when I found him, he called me every name in the book in front of Isaac and my mom. He ran full force through 2 glass doors and was told that it was my fault. I wanted out but was afraid to leave. I really thought one of us would have to be dead before I was finally free. I also didn't want to leave and have to leave Isaac with him alone. During this time, I was working at Blue Cross from home. I did not like this job, but it was stable and comfortable, and I made good money. I got a devotional called Dream Your Heart Out. The first devotional, I realized I had no hopes or dreams. Home life was not good, and for work, the only goal was climbing the corporate ladder for more money. I wrote a prayer asking God to give me dreams again. Slowly, I started having goals again. I dove into my health and lost 50 pounds. I became a body coach, and that gave me a community of women. Blue Cross mandated the COVID vaccine, and I knew that I didn't want to get it. I put in my notice and jumped full force into entrepreneurship without honestly knowing anything about it. I felt crazy bad things that I was working for again. I was a life insurance agent. I traveled, I did the trainings, I was in all of the meetings, I did everything that I was supposed to do, but it just wasn't working. The others that I was working with were making thousands a week, and I was losing money. I lost over $20,000 trying to make this work. For the first time in my life, I questioned if God was real. I spent hours a day crying on the floor. I was stuck in an abusive relationship, and now I was in a horrible financial place. I ended up having to go back to serving. Saying God humbled me would be an understatement. One day I had enough and finally broke up with Colby. We were living together still, and he still very much so had control. I started moving stuff to a storage building in Trenton because I knew I had to get out of the house, but I didn't know how. I told God I didn't understand, but I knew that He would make a way. That September, my great-grandfather passed away, and I was able to move into his house. I finally had a safe and peaceful home for me and Isaac. Even though we had the home, this only made his dad get worse. My phone blew up with messages and calls about how horrible I was, how I didn't know how to look myself in the mirror or called myself a Christian, and how I was, according to him, one of the most evil people on the planet. This constant abuse got to me, and I went into a depression. I was closing serving one night, and the bartender slid me a whiskey and Coke. I hadn't drank in almost a year. I said no at first, but then I took it. This led to a 3-month bender and getting into a worldly relationship I had no business being in. After 3 months, I went to the doctor and got put on depression meds. I stopped drinking and ended the relationship and started working on my relationship with God again. I did great going to church, focusing on my relationship with God. In June, Isaac's dad decided that he was going to keep him from me. He threatened to run off with him. He said if I pulled up that he would tear my car to pieces. Once again, the Marion County cops refused to help. They said the only way they would come is if he actually did something. I called multiple lawyers the next day, and they all said just to get him back to Georgia and to go from there. I got Isaac back, but was constantly looking over my shoulder. I couldn't get a protection order myself because he was in Tennessee and I was in Georgia. It was going to cost $5,000 to get it done, but God provided. This was probably one of the hardest things that I've ever done. A month later, we went to court. I prayed and asked God to speak through me. The judge was ready to give me whatever I wanted. I could tell God was completely involved. Things were great with me and his dad. Things were not great with me and his dad, but I officially had the freedom that I didn't think I would ever have. I did great throughout the summer, staying close to God. The fall came, and a guy that I had a crush on for a while started talking to me. I knew them from the beginning that this was not from God and I would end up hurt. But my no drinking went down the drain when he offered me a shot. Here we went again. Another 2 to 3 month bender started, and at the end I found out that he had a girlfriend and was just telling lies the entire time. I had a broken day and was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not living like this anymore. I'm done. I gave up alcohol once again and focused back on God, and that was the end of 2023. In 2024, I was in church all the time. I dove into the Bible. I prayed for opportunities to serve and get involved. February came and I had an insurance trip. We stayed at Park Inn in North Carolina, and my company rented out a piano bar for us. I told everyone I didn't drink, that I would just go socialize. Freshly sober, can you guess how that went? I got drunk all weekend. On my way home, I thought how disappointed I was in myself because I truly thought this time was different. I said, here we go again, and instantly God spoke. I love you in your best, knowing your mistakes, so I will also love you through your mistakes. I had always seen love as conditional, so whenever I messed up, I ran away from God. But this time I ran to him because of his love and him staying through me. Everything. I got my 1-year chip this past February. Jeremiah 31:3. The Lord has appeared of old to me, saying, yes, I have loved you with an everlasting love, for with loving kindness I have drawn you. After this, I decided my life was officially changed and I was getting uncomfortable for God. I signed up for El Salvador, Kids Camp, Kid Men. I got baptized. I spoke at a women's conference. I started mentoring girls at a Hope House. This all happened throughout 2024. But in May of 2024, God told me to leave Farm to Fork. I did not want to. I enjoyed socializing and I enjoyed the money. But I obeyed, even though I didn't want to. I had officially learned my lesson. I was doing health insurance at that point. For months, For months, every time I tried anything financially, it just failed. I didn't know what I was going to do. I went to apply for jobs so many times, but God told me no each time. I would cry not knowing how bills would be paid. I would filled with doubt and worry, but continued to obey God. Fall of 2024, my son's dad beat his current fiance. That brought new worries. Although 2024 had some worries, God opened so many doors for me, and he gave me so many ways to serve and give to the community, and gave me a community and a family that I wouldn't trade for anything. This year, I've now started seeing the fruits of all of the struggle. God has worked on Isaac's dad as well as my heart to allow him to be a part of Isaac's life and actually be able to co-parent, something I thought would never happen. I'm an active part of TMC, giving me many opportunities to serve others. I'm now not only a mentor with a Hand Up Ministry, but I'm also a staff member. I get to be an active part of these ladies' sobriety. If I'm honest, I think they pour into me just as much as I pour into them. Being involved with a Hand Up also gave me the opportunity to use my insurance business to serve others. And last week, I even got a text message from someone from 10 years ago requesting for me to be the insurance agent for a Suboxone clinic, which is a huge open door. She said, "Thank you," and I said, "No, thank you." And she said, "I've been waiting to get my own clinic. It's for me and you could specifically work on this together." It made me realize that God was truly working behind the scenes without me even knowing. A year later, after leaving Farm to Fork, my passive income alone is up to half of what I was making at Blue Cross, and I get to spend my time serving and helping others and serving God. I cannot thank God enough for the blessings he has put in my life and everything he has brought me through. One of the verses that's helped me through all this, I have it on my wrist, is John 13:7. Jesus answered, "What I'm doing now you do not realize, but afterwards you will understand." Yeah.